Welcome to the Undercut.
Welcome to the Undercut. So yeah, first podcast, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already swore.
Well, you can't. I swear you can't say it right first.
Like 30 seconds now.
Can you just bleep it out?
I'll have to bleep that out. Yep. So yeah, welcome back to the Undercut. I'm Lewis. This is
Steve.
what's your name? Steve.
No,
Steve
no,
McLaren.
No, we're cutting that out as well.
Listen, this is our first podcast.
Could be our last.
Could be our last. No, it won't be. We've literally done a calendar where we plan to upload every single day of the year. How clapped is that? We must be insane.
Not a podcast every day.
No. That'd be that. I would
No,
literally kill myself.
Podcast every day. Fuck that.
No.
Oh, I've sworn now. Is that 30 seconds in?
It's fine. 1 minute 22.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
then.
you're fine. So yeah, today is the 2023 season in review podcast, the first podcast.
And we're in 2024.
So you know we're only a year late. But no, what we're gonna do essentially is we're gonna have go through all the constructors first, and we're gonna kind of talk about them generally. Then we're gonna say our biggest surprise, biggest flop, all that kind of stuff. And just give our general thoughts on the season as a whole. And then we've got some interesting news later on in the podcast towards the end about a certain man called Gunther that we need to talk about. We need to talk about it.
Yeah. Netflix is going to cry when
Yeah, Netflix ratings are going down.
Yeah.
No, they're not gonna survive without. I swear. No, to be fair though, and I'm sure we'll speak about this later. Gunther Steiner made Drive to Survive.
Oh, God, 100%.
He made it. He's the
Well, him and Daniel Ricciardo.
yeah. They are the icons of Drive to Survive.
Yeah, you're just going to see every episode of Daniel Ricciardo now for next year.
Yeah.
Drive to Survive.
There's nothing like Drive to Survive was getting bad anyway. Like I only watched the first two seasons because the third season was when they started doing the.
To be fair, yeah, they started making stories out of nothing.
There was one where I found it really funny as well. They made a story about Carlos and Lando.
It was Carlos and Lando, and then they had a Daniel and Lando.
Yeah, and then didn't Lando like come out and was like, "Nah, that's a load of bollocks." Like, why have you done that?
And they proper like went into Toto and Christian Horner and Max and Lewis a lot.
And the thing is, what I don't get is that if you're gonna make,
They made it very dramatized.
yeah, they made it very dramatized. The thing is, if you're gonna make an F1 series right on Netflix to appeal to a wider audience, because the only reason they made it was so that obviously new audiences could get into F1, right?
I think they accomplished that though with the first couple.
They did, but
seasons, didn't they?
if you're gonna do that, why fake it? Because then people are gonna watch the next season and go, "Oh my god, Carlos and Lando really hate each other."
Yeah.
And then they see them being good friends, and they're just like, "What's that about?"
Yeah, a lot of people just. To be fair, they dramatized it, and I have seen quite a lot of people did get into it because of the drama and the beef that they saw.
Yeah.
Like, they don't watch F1, they just watch Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
To watch the drama. So I think Netflix have now started to appeal to that nature, haven't they?
Yeah, they did the same with the Beckham documentary.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
That's because they know that like humans like
beef.
other people fighting.
Yeah, it's true, and the thing is though, even like good example of that is my mother-in-law. She hates football with passion, right? But she watched the Beckham documentary and she liked it, which proves.
That's because everyone likes David Buddy Beckham.
But it just proves that if there's beef, people like it.
Yeah, I know, but it's also David Beckham, and
that's true.
He's an icon.
He has transcended football, hasn't he? Really?
He's just an icon. People like you don't have to like football to know who David Beckham is.
No, that's right.
It's like Ronaldo.
Yeah, everyone knows Ronaldo is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Why have we gone to football?
But either way, yeah, no. Drive to Survive, it's not going to work without Gunther. I'm sure we'll talk about Gunther later, but Drive to Survive
we
is
will
just
talk about
clapped.
it later because
I don't even watch it anymore. It's so clapped. I don't watch it.
I watch it because I quite like the beef.
I haven't seen the last few seasons.
No, I have. Were
they good?
It depends what you like. Do you like F1 or do you like drama?
I like F1. I like drama, but I only like drama when it's real because, you know, when you're an avid F1,
There's
F1
always there is elements of realism in it, but like the drama in F1, you know what the drama is.
yeah, like 2021 was Max and Lewis.
They've just intensified it.
Yeah,
They've upped it to so the drama is real.
Yeah.
But they've intensified the drama.
See, that's the thing, though. That's what I don't like.
No, but when you're making a show,
yeah,
you kind of have to do that, though.
Yeah, you have to.
So you can respect Netflix for it.
Yeah.
But it's not always factual. So we don't want you Drive to Survive fans coming out.
No, please do. I hate it. I hate Drive to Survive. Fuck Drive to Survive.
You don't need to put your hands up.
Sorry, I just thought I'd emphasize. Sorry.
Nice.
I'm an F1 purist. I hate Netflix.
No, you don't hate Netflix.
I know I hate Netflix.
No.
I love Netflix. Netflix, if you want to do a deal with us.
Don't go there yet.
Anyway, we should probably talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go on to F1 2023 because what a year!
What a year!
I wouldn't even say what a year, to be honest. We had a phenomenal battle from 2nd to 19th.
What a battle it was!
Wait, 2nd to 19th,
Yeah.
because it was Max in first, Logan in last. That's all it
I
was.
have to do
really.
your boy Logan like that.
That's all it really was.
Yeah.
And then we'll discount in the mid pack of Lance Stroll as well. He can go.
He was just there.
He had one good race. Lance did.
Was it Canada?
No, it was Bahrain.
Bahrain.
It was Bahrain.
The first race.
The only news that I got from Lance was at the start of the season he had a crash, and then he had a pretty good comeback at Bahrain.
It was a good comeback, wasn't it?
And that was it. That's all he did in 2023.
Yeah. We'll talk about Lance a bit later, but I think it was his time to prove how good he was against Alonso.
The only reason he's still in that seat is Daddy
Stroll.
Yeah, that's the only reason. It's because his father is the owner.
Yeah. Yeah, if his father sells his shares,
Lance is gone.
he's gone instantly.
Lance is gone.
Instantly. He's gone. I reckon they bring in, like, I don't know. But either way, that's a topic for the future.
Could you imagine
actually.
if Seb hadn't retired, it was Fernando and Seb?
Oh, that's...
I don't think McLaren would have caught him.
No, I don't either. Fernando and Seb would have been a phenomenal.
Now, would they have butt heads? That's the question.
Yes. Oh, almost certainly. It's Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel, arguably two of the greatest drivers to have ever driven in the sport. They would have clashed heads at some point. I think they would have respected each other though.
Oh God, 100%.
They would have respected each other.
Like you see with you can see there is. I think. Do you know what I think is going to come out in Drive to Survive this year now?
What?
We talked about drama and that.
Yeah.
It's got to be the renewal of Lewis and Fernando.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna get in onto that.
They will.
Like if they don't get in onto that, they've missed a hole there, because he had the tweet that Lewis then put out after Fernando's comments.
Oh yeah. All that drama.
I
forgot that happened. It's almost like so much happened this year, but like.
Well, it's all been clouded over by Max
winning everything,
running away. You've had the Lewis and Fernando.
Yeah. The Lewis and Fernando
kind of sparring.
You've also had something that I think we'll also talk about a bit later as well. I keep saying we'll talk about stuff later, then we end up talking about it. Is the obviously very recent thing about Lewis and Christian Horner.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
moved to Red Bull. Yeah. We've had that. So it's been a mad year. We've had a lot go on. Well, I think off the track it's been a mad year. So for Drive to Survive it's going to be great.
Lewis was right, though. Put his name in anything, there's drama.
Yeah. That's how it works, though. It's Lewis Hamilton.
Just name Lewis Hamilton and
well, it's like
people are going to take notice.
It's like what we were talking about earlier with David Beckham. Lewis Hamilton transcends Formula One. Like, everyone knows who Lewis Hamilton is.
He does. Whether you like him or you hate him.
Yeah, whether you like him or you hate him, you know who he is. And you put his name in anything, and it will get clicks. It'll generate opinion.
It's kind of the same with Fernando. Fernando's starting to get a name for himself.
He's becoming an icon, isn't he?
Everyone is like Fernando,
Yeah.
and I don't like it.
You don't like Fernando?
No, not that I
there you
don't like Fernando. It's not that I don't like. I feel like this year, especially, some certain pundits maybe, have gone over the top with their feelings and reviews for for Fernando's races.
I disagree, but we'll get to that when we talk about Aston Martin. So let's talk about Williams first, because we're getting on to...
Why Williams? Williams weren't even last.
Let's talk about Haas.
Yeah,
I'm
Haas.
so used to Williams being last. Sorry,
Haas.
Williams.
We can just talk about Gunther while we talk about Haas, to be honest.
All right, let's talk about Gunther then. Let's talk about... So Haas. Haas came last with how many points did he have? 6?
No.
Something like that?
It was like 12, I think.
12?
Yeah, I think it was... I'll get it all.
Sorry, Haas. I underestimated you.
Yeah.
12 points.
12 points.
A whole 4th place.
Well, the thing is... Yeah, 12 points. Jesus
12.
Christ. The thing is with Haas, I went into qualifying and I expected at least one of the drivers to get into Q2, possibly Q3, which they did. Because Haas had a very good one-lap car.
It's been like that for a few years, hasn't it?
Especially Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg in his first season back. To be fair, yeah, what was that standout one in Canada, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it P4? Did he get P4 that
P4,
year?
possibly.
I think it was P4.
Possibly P4.
Because he beat Lewis. Yeah, I think it was P4.
Hulkenberg on his day, though.
Might have been... No, was he front
amazing.
row?
I don't remember. So much has happened.
Might have been front row.
Possibly. But Hulkenberg's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Hulkenberg's qualifying was phenomenal this year.
I do believe, though, Hulkenberg has had a very, very sour look at the draw. Because his qualifying pace is outstanding.
Oh, God, yeah.
Williams...
It always has been.
Williams 2010, pole position in Brazil.
Yeah.
His first race back in, 2019, qualified P3 in the Racing Point, I believe.
No,
was it 2020?
No, that would be
2020?
2020.
Was it 2020? 2019, 2020?
Was it 2021?
No, 21.
Are you sure?
I don't think it was.
No, because he had 22 out, 21, and he left.
Oh yeah, 2019
Renault.
was hanging like a cow, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was with Daniel.
It was with Daniel. Then it would be 2021 then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, got
Yeah,
2021. No,
Or
wasn't it?
2020? I don't know.
It was 2020 in COVID, wasn't it?
Possibly.
Because we had the 2 Britain
yes.
races.
Of course it was. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the 2 Britain races.
He came back, phenomenal job,
2020.
P3, and now obviously he's shown that he can still qualify in a Haas. That Haas, his race pace is absolutely dog wank.
What was it? It's the tyres, isn't it?
The overheats his
They
tyres.
must overheat
Overheats his
massively.
tyres really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because Haas is that kind of team where it's like they're underdogs no matter what, because they're not a manufacturer team.
No.
They're the newest team in the sport.
Yeah.
And they've already done pretty well considering how many years they've been in.
That first year that they came in, and the second year. Do you remember when they started off Australia that year? Was it P6, P8 quali? And they were up there, and then they just fucked the pit stops, essentially.
Oh, yeah. Grosjean finished, was it 4th in Bahrain in their first year? Something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So they did really well. And it's really sad because I really want them to do well. I really want them to do well. But
do I like Haas? No.
I don't.
The only reason why I liked Haas was Gunther.
Yeah, same. That's why I wanted him to do well. But now Gunther's gone.
See, now, the tyres, it comes down to the engineering and the manufacturing of that car, the issues that they've had this year. And they have appointed the head engineer as the new team principal.
So you might have just... They might... So basically what you're saying is that they might have screwed themselves over even more.
I think getting rid of Gunther was wrong. And that's not just in terms of for Netflix. I actually think Gunther was quite a good team principal.
I think he knew how to handle his drivers.
Oh, God.
But then again, people are also saying one of the reasons why he's been sacked is because he didn't handle Magnussen or Schumacher very well.
I think Schumacher treatment was wrong.
I agree.
I agree with the Schumacher treatment. However, Magnussen I think we've seen this year as well. Like, obviously, when his first season back, Brazil stood out quite a lot, didn't it? Last year. Not 2023, 2022, that was. Brazil stood out for Magnussen a lot. He qualified on pole for the sprint. It's phenomenal. But I think we've seen this year, he's rash. Is he quick enough? He's been outshone by Hulkenberg majority of the year, I feel.
Yeah. It could be to do with... He could be getting rash because he knows Hulkenberg's quicker than him.
Maybe, and I think the dynamic of Grosjean and Magnussen, they just... If you deep it, I think they both got a bit hot-headed because they both tried to outdo each other too much.
Yeah. Whereas Hulkenberg's just quick.
Oh, yeah. Hulkenberg's just naturally.
It's really sad because I wish... Speaking on Hulkenberg again as well, and it kind of proves, I think, how much Haas have kind of dropped off in the races. I think if Hulkenberg was at Aston Martin still, imagine if it was Hulkenberg and Alonso, let's just say. I think that Aston Martin, you know, you're looking at a solid like finish in the constructors, possibly ahead of McLaren, maybe even ahead of Ferrari or Mercedes, because Hulkenberg would have racked up those fourth places. He wouldn't have beat Fernando, but I reckon he would have finished fourth or fifth most of the races.
I think he could have been up there, if not ahead of Fernando on a couple of them as well.
Yeah, and like Hulkenberg's such a talented driver. He was linked with Ferrari at one point as well in his career.
Yes.
That never went through.
Well, you say all this Hulkenberg thing. He left Race Point for Renault. Right?
Yeah.
The other person that got kicked out, essentially, of Racing Point and went to Red Bull was Perez.
Sergio Perez.
They chose Perez to go over Lance Stroll. They wanted to keep Lance over Perez.
Which is ridiculous.
That would have been Perez and Fernando. It would have been Perez and Vettel.
That's so sad because that driver line, Perez and Vettel and Perez and Fernando, is honestly
now Perez this season,
as we'll talk about,
he might have been a bit ropes.
Yeah, but he is up against the greatest driver on the grid at the moment. So, you know, you've got to give him some slack.
The greatest driver on the grid at the moment.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
No.
So, yeah, Haas
screwed it.
Year, but Haas screwed it.
Haas did screw it.
They need to get that race pace sorted out.
They need a race pace car.
For next year. And if they don't, every single fault that had brought Haas their woes last season was their race pace. Every single time. They just dropped back. Well, who came ninth then? Was it Alfa Romeo? Alfa
Romeo, surprisingly.
Surprisingly.
Actually, because I thought... I feel like Alfa Romeo, they didn't get points, but they weren't ever last.
No, I always felt like that. They
seemed to be 11th to 14th.
Yeah, always in that window. So they were, they were kind of that team where it was like, no matter what track you went to, they were always thereabouts, and then there was maybe Alpine was behind.
Was it Hungary?
Haas, Williams, even McLaren at the start of the season.
Oh my god, McLaren.
Aston Martin on the odd occasion as well, but they were always kind of there, but they never really scoring points. Obviously, a few races they did bottle it, big time.
Oh god,
especially towards the end of the season.
But who doesn't?
But start of the season, they weren't slow. They weren't slow.
I think if you look over the majority of the season, they weren't slow.
No, they weren't that slow, were they?
I mean, was it Hungary? Was it Zhou 5th, Bottas 7th qualifying?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
They weren't ridiculous. Slow by any means. Now, speaking of Alfa Romeo, do you reckon they have the right pair of drivers?
Yes.
Do you think so?
They've got the right pair.
And what I mean by that is, number one, is Bottas a team leader?
Yes.
And number two...
Well, was Bottas a team leader?
And number two, does Zhou have what it takes to get to that level that Alfa Romeo need him to be? I'm not saying that he needs to be the best. What I'm saying is, does he... Because Alfa Romeo, realistically, they need a Hulkenberg, they need a Ricciardo, they need a Perez, don't they? Really, they need someone that's there every race, competing, and then they need a team leader.
I think.
Is Zhou capable of getting to that level?
without question in my mind, I think Zhou is capable of that. I think he, off raw ability, I think he's better than quite a few drivers that are on the grid right now.
You think so? I don't really see much of him though.
I rate Zhou. I actually rate Zhou.
I don't rate him. I don't think he's good enough. Something off about him. I don't know what it is. Something off about him.
To be fair, I think there's a few drivers on this grid that aren't good enough.
It's a very weak grid, isn't it, really? Well, it's not.
It's a weak yet very strong. I think the strong drivers are very strong.
Yeah.
And I think the weak drivers are very weak.
It's kind of like we're in this transitional period where all the great drivers of the last 10 to 15 years, some of them haven't even left yet. And then the strong drivers of the new generation are here.
But they can't get a look in.
But they can't get a look in. Yeah, because Hamilton isn't retiring yet. Neither is Alonso. Max is on his 7th year. Perez is still going. Daniel's still trying to find something. Bottas is still here. You know, everyone's still kind of just sitting about. But no, yeah. Back on topic though. Speaking of Alfa Romeo, it's not good enough. I think they're hanging on to Audi, aren't they? In 2026, they're hanging on for that Audi deal.
You know what? You do notice with Alfa Romeo, they have gone from a Kimi leadership role, haven't they, to then a Bottas.
That's like Finns, don't they?
They like an experienced driver and a new driver. So you had Kimi and Charles.
Yeah, that was a good driver lineup.
That was phenomenal.
And then you've
got Bottas and Zhou.
Well, that's what I mean. With Charles, you had... This is what I mean. Zhou needs to get to that level. Because Charles was a young driver. Because they like to bring in the young driver and the experience, like you said.
He was really good.
He was so good. They need that level of driver. One that can come through, preferably from the Ferrari Academy.
Charles' first year with Ericsson?
I can't remember.
I think it was,
Was it not Kimi?
No, it wasn't. Ericsson, and then it was Kimi.
No, Charles replaced Kimi.
Charles and Kimi did a swap, didn't they?
Ah.
And then Ericsson left.
We're fake F1 fans. We just said Charles and Kimi in this.
Yeah, we did. No, but then Ericsson left.
Yeah.
In that same year. So who was Kimi with?
Kimi was with... Who was Kimi with? Oh my god.
This is where This is where we need people to tell us.
This is why we need a producer. Shoot, man.
I'm Googling.
Kimi. Speaking of Kimi. Kimi Raikkonen. We've got him.
Team. Kimi. Who's your teammate at Alfa Romeo?
What? I don't know. I didn't really care.
How did we forget this dummy?
Who?
He was so shit.
Who was it?
Giovinazzi.
Oh, Giovinazzi, of course. No, he's not. I rate Giovinazzi. No, I do.
No.
I do genuinely. I think Giovinazzi was good.
No.
I think he was. I think he was decent. He was so underrated. Giovinazzi was class on his day. Giovinazzi. But either way, no. We're talking about 5 years ago now. Alfa Romeo. Shocking year, really.
I think overall,
should have performed.
Points wise, it was a poor year. Car wise, I don't think it was. It was a good car.
I think they need to reevaluate.
It was a beautiful car as well. I must say.
It was.
I love that livery.
I think they need to reevaluate Zhou though. I'm not confident with him.
Could be a make or break year for quite a few drivers this year.
Yeah, Logan, Zhou. The likes.
Yeah.
Probably Daniel, I'd say, as well. And Perez.
Well, you say Daniel. Next team, it's AlphaTauri.
So,
finishing 8th.
A very rocky year for AlphaTauri. Very poor start. Very strong end, though. A lot of positives, but also a lot of negatives as well.
A really big positive for me for AlphaTauri is Yuki's performances.
I think he's gotten better. One thing I like about Yuki, though, as I was mentioning with Zhou has to get to that level where he can be the midfield performer.
Yeah.
I think Yuki went from very raw-paced guy.
Oh, God. Yuki
very rough, but
so hot-headed.
hot-headed. But he's developed to the point where I think he's getting to that point.
He's getting better. You still see
it.
these hot-headed flashes like in Mexico.
Mexico, yeah.
Oh my god, that he was on for a phenomenal performance.
AlphaTauri were gonna.
Wasn't Yuki like he started like down in last as well?
Yeah.
He was on for a great performance there.
It was a mental race for him.
And then he just bottled it.
But I think Yuki's getting there. I think the positives.
Yeah.
Yuki, I think Liam Lawson has shown his worth as well.
God, yeah.
Very, very good driver.
Liam Lawson.
Incredible driver.
I think he's what? How many races he had? 3, 4?
Yeah.
Amazing. All of them were. And they weren't easy tracks.
No. Impressive.
Yeah,
it was an impressive performance.
The Netherlands.
Netherlands.
It was his first time there as well.
Yeah.
Had Suzuka. Qatar. Was he at Texas? Yeah, he was at Texas. Yeah, he did Texas.
No, he didn't. Daniel did.
No, he didn't.
Did he? No, Daniel came back for Texas.
Did he?
Pretty sure.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Right, but this year,
It was definitely Qatar.
This is another issue. There's too many races. Can't keep up anymore.
Oh,
it's like
God.
It used to be like 17, 18 races a season, and you could pretty much count all of them on one hand. Well, not one hand, but
Was
like
it
4
this?
hands.
Is it 23, 24?
Yeah.
This year.
24. That's 6 more than we were used to back in the day.
And I don't agree with all the track choices.
I can't keep up. I don't either. That's an issue for another podcast, though, I think.
No, we'll do that later on after this season review.
I think we could go into depth with that, though, to be fair. But either way, though, yeah, so Yuki and Liam. What do you think about Daniel? Do you think Daniel was the right choice? Okay, first question I'm going to ask you, right? 1, do you think it was the right move to replace Nick de Vries so early, given his record in Formula E and Formula 2? And second question, do you think it was the right choice to put Daniel Ricciardo in that seat? Or would you have brought another young driver in? For example, would you have given it straight to Liam Lawson?
Well, one, Red Bull are renowned for replacing drivers very quick. They don't think about what they do. Let's be honest. They just straight to the point. It's a tough one because I think you look at it in a case of they didn't just look at AlphaTauri, whereas like they looked at their own performances Red Bull did this year, especially Perez. And I think Perez's poor performances is what gave Daniel an edge. Because I think Red Bull would be looking, if Daniel have a good year this year, to put Daniel back in the Red Bull. That's what I think that they were looking to do. Because I don't think Yuki is necessarily ready.
I agree.
And I think they know that. He's too hot-headed. Liam Lawson would not be ready. I think they want a driver ready to come in for Perez if he has another bad year.
Liam Lawson would have been another Albon Gasly situation.
Correct.
And Albon and Gasly have since proven that they are amazing drivers as well.
Yeah.
So
they don't want that. They want a driver who's experienced, who's quick, and the only driver out there that they could call upon was Ricciardo. And I don't think they're doing it in terms of would he fit AlphaTauri. I think they're doing it in get him some race time, put him in the Red Bull if Perez has
so what you're saying is you reckon they had Nick de Vries, because obviously he's like 26, isn't he? So he's very experienced.
Nick de Vries.
He's not a rookie.
He was very poor though.
Very poor. But so what you're saying is you reckon they put Nick de Vries in AlphaTauri to line him up in case Red Bull had Perez had a poor season this year for him to replace him in 2025. But since he was so poor, they had to do a quick switch.
No, I don't think they had that vision of Perez at all this year, because he had a pretty good year for a first year in a Red Bull against Max.
2 years.
Well, 2 years. He had a pretty decent year.
2021 was a good year.
Yeah.
And 2022 was a good
2022 was a pretty decent year for Perez.
Yeah. He did what he was meant to do.
His expectations for this year, 2023, was supposed to be a lot better than what it was.
Finished second when...
He did
finish second.
He did end up finishing second in the championship.
But that was because every other driver was taking points off each other every weekend. Because the grid was so wishy-washy.
And a couple of FIA calls in terms of penalties. And all of that. I mean,
We don't talk about that.
No.
But I think it speaks volumes that Alonso or Lewis could have beat Perez in the driver's
well, it
standings
got
this
to a
year.
point when Lewis was about to overtake Wanty in Texas before he got disqualified.
Then he had a little bit of a poor patch for a few races, and
Well, I think Mercedes has just had a poor patch, didn't they?
yeah, so it was, yeah, it. So Daniel, you reckon, is in there because they didn't want to put Liam in there.
I think they brought Daniel in for Nick De Vries. I didn't think they had a vision of having Nick De Vries and Yuki. I don't think they thought about bringing either of them to Red Bull.
Yeah.
For Perez. But I think when De Vries was poor, Perez was also dropping in form.
Yeah.
Because he started the season well. Max
Yeah.
had 2 wins, Perez had 2 wins.
Yeah.
We thought, oh, you know what, Perez is doing that. And then he dropped in the next 4 races.
Yeah.
And that's when De Vries went.
Yeah.
And I think they saw Perez was dropping.
Fucking hell. Every time.
De Vries was not good enough in terms of performances. So they brought Daniel in and see what Daniel could do. And then obviously Daniel did something to his wrist and didn't get the races that he needed to do. So that's why we're in the situation of Perez stays in his seat.
So you reckon it was just it all lined up perfectly?
I think Red Bull are having a headache between Yuki, Perez, Daniel and Lawson.
It would make sense as well because what you're saying is like we got to a point where Nick was poor, they had to replace him.
Yeah.
But Perez was poor, so
Yeah.
that means they needed to give another driver a chance to prove themselves to then maybe put them in a Red Bull. And the only person that could do that is Daniel.
Correct, because Lawson's
too inexperienced.
Exactly.
And they saw what happened with Albon and Gasly.
Yuki's too hot-headed.
Yeah.
So they're trying to avoid the mistakes that they've previously made.
Yeah.
But now Daniel's issue with his hand and his wrist put Lawson into a seat at AlphaTauri, and they've seen how good Lawson is, which then gave him a conundrum of 4 drivers, 3 seats.
Oh. It's so...
And Yuki performed on a level where you couldn't even fault him with the
It-
car that
what-
he was given as well.
What's crazy about this whole situation is you can't get rid of any of them. Like, despite how poor Perez was, he still finished second in the championship. He still has the capabilities to be that second driver that they need.
Well,
At the moment...
there is a stat that came out that Max has led more laps last year than Perez was in the top 10
That's class.
in laps.
But still...
Yeah, but that Red Bull is arguably one of the best F1 cars there
ever, yeah. Yeah.
It shouldn't have even been that close to
No.
the rest of the grid, and he was struggling to get to Q3.
Oh.
Like, if you're talking about poor seasons, I think Perez has to be up there.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that. I think on our biggest flop, but it's... Yeah, I've got a conundrum. But either way, Williams. Williams.
I didn't have expectations for Williams, and for
Me
them to
neither.
finish 7th, it's a good year.
Good year.
Especially for Alex Albon.
Yeah. It's a good year. I think... Now, I might be in the minority on this, but I think it was a mistake keeping Sargent.
No.
I think it's a mistake.
I think Sargent... We got to Texas. I think we saw flashes of Sargent throughout the year, and then I think from Texas to the end of Abbott, he did perform the way that Williams wanted him to. I feel
He did. There's too much uncertainty there.
There is uncertainty, but if you look at the season as a whole, just focusing on Logan Sargent from Bahrain to Abu Dhabi, you can see a general progression up.
Okay, that's fair.
You can, and I think that's what they've gone off. There's a general progression.
That's fair.
I think if he doesn't progress even more this year, I think you could see him go.
That's fair.
But the fact that there was a progress there, he picked up his first points. He was on the fringe. His qualifying was getting better. I know he was outdone all year. But he was thereabouts with Albon towards the end. I think that's why they've kept him on. Because if he can outdo Albon a couple of times, getting the points a bit more this year, I think there's potential in Logan compared to other drivers that have been in that Williams. Mention no names, Latifi.
Latifi?
No.
Underrated. Go Tiffy. Go Tiffy. He's the GOAT for a reason.
The only reason people remember Latifi is Abu Dhabi 2021.
Yeah, that's true. But then he crashed then. It's clapped, that was. Maybe we'll do a retro review of that race.
We can't get into 2021.
Nah, we'll end up getting cancelled. But
oh my god.
No, okay, the reason why I'd sack Logan Sargent off is because I would have seen how well Liam Lawson did in that AlphaTauri, and I would have
put Liam Lawson in the Williams.
If I was James Vowles, if I was Williams, I would have been straight on the phone to Red Bull, asking for a loan deal for Liam Lawson.
A loan deal.
You can loan deal, because Red Bull aren't going to give Liam Lawson up.
No, God no.
God no.
Stupid to.
Stupid to. So I would have been on the phone. I would have gone, listen, right? Liam Lawson's not going to be in a seat next year, right? So what we'll do is we'll get him on a 1-year loan deal till the end of next season, and then I would have put a clause in there saying if you don't use him by a certain date, then we're allowed to sign him.
I can see where you're coming from.
I would have done that instantly because Liam Lawson proved in F1 that he is the shit. He's quick. He's got what it takes. And I think he's a perfect match to push Albon, and I reckon Albon would push him.
Yeah, but you say this, but Nick De Vries's one race for Williams at Monza was phenomenal, and that's what got in the seat at AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Would Logan Sargent has not Logan Sargent, Liam Lawson only had 4 races. It's a gamble. You don't want him to do a Nick De Vries. It was a gamble.
It was a gamble, but I think where Williams are at, I think.
Was it worth the gamble, or do you think that they've seen a progression and they've seen that Albon and Logan have a pretty good dynamic?
Well, they've had to keep him for a reason, and I think the main reason is.
I don't think James Vowles is stupid. I think he's done a pretty good job as his first year as a team principal.
Oh yeah, he's done amazing. Considering everything,
I'm not going to question his decision on keeping Logan because I think he's
not yet. No, because to be fair, James Vowles invested a lot in Logan's career.
Yes.
Have you heard the story about how he backed him through F2 and everything? Like James Vowles has backed Logan. Williams have backed Logan.
Well, there we go.
Through his career.
I don't think there was grounds to get rid of him because of the progression that he made throughout the year.
That's fair. No, I understand that. That's fair. I would have to be fair, I think where Williams are at, I think they need to be ruthless. I think they've got to be... Because the thing is, Williams, one of the greatest F1 teams to have ever existed. I think if you're Williams, you've got 7th place in the Constructors, right? Last year. You've got to move forward. Alfa Romeo can move forward very easily. Or Sauber, sorry. Sauber can move forward very easily. AlphaTauri are moving to Milton Keynes near Red Bull. How legal that is, who knows? But either way, they're going to be faster because it's clear that they're tying closer to Red Bull's car, so they're going to be quicker. Haas, you never know. They could be quicker, but they're probably not going to be. Haas are probably the only ones that you could probably theoretically only confirm that you're going to be quicker than this year. If you're Williams, to avoid dropping down or staying 7th, you've got to get a quicker driver, someone that's going to score you points.
I know.
Liam Lawson.
There is that. However, do you think they're looking at the fact how many drivers have they gone through since 2014?
Yeah, a lot. But then again,
I mean, we've gone from Bottas, Massa.
That was a good lineup.
We've had Stroll there. You've had Sergei Sorokin.
Oh, Sorokin! Oh, Sergei! I forgot about him.
You've had Sorokin.
Sergei Sorokin.
You've had so many. Do you think?
Yeah, wait,
maybe it's time for Williams to have a bit of.
Sergei Sorokin, by the way.
He was so bad.
Bad racing driver, great at developing the car.
To be fair.
Great test. As a test driver, I think Sergei Sirotkin would do a banging job.
I think maybe James just wants a bit of
continuity. That's fair enough. I mean, it's like switching out. It's like switching out your. I'm going to use another football analogy here.
It's your managers.
Yeah, switching out your manager. It's like what Man United have been doing for the last 10 years. It's just there's no continuity in that club at all.
No.
It's like doing that. There's no point. Might as well just keep him. I get that. Okay, maybe Logan Sargent staying doesn't.
I think it's a make or break season for him.
Yeah.
I think he's got to show more progression this year, but I think that's why they kept him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Alex Albon, you can't fault him this year.
No. I don't think we need to speak much on Albon.
No, he's
phenomenal. Yeah, one of the best drivers on the grid. I think he's in the top 10 for best season. Best drivers this season.
Definitely in the top 10 of best drivers for this season. Yeah.
One of the best of the season. Yeah. One of the better ones.
That'll be easy.
Yeah. Who was next then? Sixth place. Was it Alpine?
Alpine. No, I do not think Gasly and Ocon work. I really don't.
There's so many problems with Alpine. In fact, I go as far to say I think they're the team with the most problems.
Was it this year in testing that it was saying, their engine weight is significantly lower, you expect them to be faster, their engine's supposed to be powerful. Was that this year?
I can't remember, was it this year?
Or was that last year? Where they were supposed to be like, they've got so much less weight compared to all the others.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But I feel like we go into every year expecting Alpine to be quite quick.
Yeah.
And they're just not.
You know what's funny about Alpine? They're the team that fights no one.
Literally. They're batting around for about 8th, 7th, or they're down in the bottom trenches.
Well, this is the thing. They're quick enough
to be up there.
They're quick enough on an average. Yeah, they've had poor races, but they're quick enough on an average to be faster than Williams, Sauber, Haas, and AlphaTauri. But they're nowhere near quick enough to be with McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull.
Yeah, that's literally it.
And they've got two amazing drivers. I think two drivers who are very capable.
That don't work together.
But they're two number one drivers. I think they're two. They clash, and I think
if you have to choose one,
Pierre Gasly.
Thank God you said that.
Pierre Gasly. Yeah, I'd have to. I rate Ocon. I really do. I think Ocon. The point in his career, he's a great driver. I think he's a Hulkenberg type driver. Like you put him in any midfield car and he'll get you results.
It's not as good as Hulkenberg.
But earlier in his career, I think personally anyway, I know you'll disagree, but I think they should have put Ocon in that Mercedes seat instead of Bottas.
That's a
I think
ridiculous claim. Oh my God.
I think because he was a Mercedes driver, I think they should have gone with Ocon. But
but you're saying this after a stint at Racing Point?
Yes.
Nah.
Yes.
How can what? Oh my God.
So, because I think then. Now, obviously, I think the reason they didn't is because they were looking at George Russell, right? Obviously, George Russell coming through. And then, obviously, because they were looking at him to take over Lewis. So they put Bottas in there as a temporary second driver. But at the time, I thought it was a massive mistake not to go for Ocon.
No.
I don't rate him on that level anymore, but I think his career's plateaued because he hasn't had the right opportunities. He's still a class driver.
I naturally don't think that he is faster than any of the teammates that he's had.
It's weird, isn't it? Because he's always
not been faster than Perez. I think Perez was the better driver out of the two.
Yeah.
I think Fernando was the better driver out of the two.
Oh, well, of course Fernando
I think Ricciardo was the better driver out of the two.
Uh-huh.
And I think Gasly's the better driver out of the two.
You know what's weird, though? No one's ever said, get rid of Esteban Ocon.
I think that's because
no one's ever said that.
He's a 10th place driver.
But he's not second. He's not second driver though. He is very much quick enough to be a first driver.
He's just had better teammates.
He's just had teammates that have been a tad slightly quicker than him.
Well, I think Fernando just wiped.
Well, no, but Fernando wipes the floor with anyone. The only people.
I think Ricardo wiped the floor with him. To be fair,
No, but it wasn't that.
it wasn't
that bad. No one was saying get rid of Ocon, were they? You know what I mean? So
no, they weren't. But
no, I think Alpine need to get rid.
I mean, we're forgetting this year. Didn't Ocon pick up third at Monaco?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean. Was it Gasly? No, it was Ocon.
No, it was
wasn't
Ocon.
Exactly. Ocon's a fantastic driver. I just don't think he works with Gasly at Alpine. I think they need to have a clear number one and build the car around that driver.
I would choose Gasly.
I'd choose Gasly. Yeah, I would, 100%. I'd choose Gasly and I'd get rid of Ocon, but I wouldn't want to see Ocon not be in the sport. I'd like to see Ocon go somewhere else.
I'm still really upset that Gasly didn't work at Red Bull.
Yeah, but that was Red Bull's fault when it put him in too early. So they did the same with Albon, and look what Albon's done.
I'm really upset that Gasly didn't make it because I rate Gasly massively.
You do.
I do rate him.
Shall we tell?
I even bet on him to win a race, didn't I? Like, yeah.
Shall we tell them about it? So basically, when Gasly won a race in 2019, Jack put on a bet for him to win a race that season. He was at Red Bull at the time.
He was at Red Bull at the time, yes.
So it made sense. But then he left Red Bull, and everyone went, no.
I know, we're still like, no, he's going to win.
And then you still said, yeah, he's going to win, and then he ended up winning. So, yeah, that was a crazy moment. So, yeah, Alpine...
Driver knowledge.
Alpine, I think, can they make gains? Possibly. That engine has got strides forward,
I think Alpine have the potential to either make the biggest gains or flop.
Yeah. I think it's weird, isn't it? Because you can't see a progression in Alpine.
Oh no.
Ever. I think that's why Alonso left.
That's why you go into it every year and you expect Alpine to do something and they just don't.
Yeah.
And
I predicted them to be last a few years ago. And they didn't end up being last, they just still ended up being in the middle.
Well, what was
every time.
They got to a point where wasn't it a year then it was Mercedes, Red Bull, Racing Point with a dodgy Racing Point.
Yeah.
Fake Mercedes. It's a pink Mercedes.
Pink Mercedes.
That's what it was. And then it was Renault.
Yeah.
And obviously when the whole Racing Point thing died down and their pace just went, Renault were.
Well, then Ferrari came back.
Well, Ferrari did come back towards the end eventually, but Renault were a team that were notching up podiums from time to time.
Yeah.
Especially Ricciardo.
Unless you're Nico Hulkenberg.
Oh, God. Poor guy, man.
Poor guy. He just wants his podium. He's not getting it in a Haas, though.
Oh, God, no. If he gets it in a Haas, it's a miracle.
Yeah, especially next year.
God,
they put their top engineering man as the team principal, even though their car is an engineering flop.
Yeah.
Sorry, Haas.
We'll see.
Yeah, so who's next then? McLaren?
No, it was Aston Martin.
Oh, God, yeah.
Aston Martin. Now, they were, I don't think you can argue with this, the second best car on the grid up until, you've got to say easily, Austria, Britain.
Yeah. Good majority of the season.
Good. Definitely first 8 races.
I think that says more about Lance Stroll than it does about anything else. Does it say anything about Aston Martin? It says a lot about Lance Stroll. And I hate to say that because Lance Stroll, I really want it to work for you, man. But
I've never rated Lance.
No. He's not good enough. And the thing is, he's going to stay in that seat until his father leaves or sells his shares. Which, to be fair, there has been rumours that he's going to do so at some point.
Yeah, but he'll probably just go buy another team and then bring him into there.
Oh, that'd be...
That's all he does.
Imagine he bought Mercedes.
No.
Lance Stroll and George Russell.
I don't think you can buy Mercedes with the shares that it goes around. Toto owns...
Well, you got Sir Jim, Toto, and Mercedes-Benz Group.
Yeah, so you got to buy. You're not buying any like one of them out, are you? Like
no. Yeah, I mean, I think we've spoke about Aston Martin a lot already. But
yeah.
I think It's obvious. It's one of those things that I think unanimously F1 fans and Aston Martin fans all together collectively agree that Lance Stroll is not good enough. Everyone says it.
I know everyone says it. There is die-hard Lance Stroll fans out there still, though.
Yeah, there will be, but you've got to admit he's not good enough. Come on.
Can you name a Lance Stroll highlight other than Bahrain?
Baku 2018.
No, this year.
Oh, this
from
year.
2023.
Oh, right. So not 6 years ago.
No.
No. No.
The only thing I remember Lance Stroll for, someone came up to me, and you think of something that Lance Stroll did. The only thing that comes fresh into my mind is his crash in Singapore.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like, you say, oh, well, he picked up a few fourth places here and there. It's like, yeah, when Alonso was miles clear in the podium spots.
God, yeah,
it doesn't even matter then. It's like, yeah, he picked up a few.
He picked up a 5th. He picked up a 6th. He's getting decent points. Where's Fernando? He's second
Second or third every time.
He's like 30 seconds up the road.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Stroll should be there.
You can't have that big of a gap between teammates when you have that good of a car.
No.
Especially when Perez, it's the same with Perez. When Perez was flopping and Aston Martin a second, that should easily be a max Fernando Stroll.
Yeah. You have to pick up those points for the constructors and the drivers.
Especially when Perez is off form the way that he was.
Exactly. You're Aston Martin. You're never going to beat Red Bull in the constructors. But we
didn't expect that. And we didn't expect Lance to be always there with Fernando. But the fact that he was never...
Yeah. I think it's disappointing, isn't it, really? You look at the year, they're 5th. They're 5th.
Considering the position that they
That's
were
crazy.
in.
They're 5th.
Yeah.
They were the second best car for a lot of the races. They're 5th.
They were.
I think it just proves, you look at all the top teams, their driver lineups. See, Oscar, Lando, George Lewis, Carlos, Charles, even Sergio Perez, on his occasion, and is better than Stroll.
Lance.
And then you've got Fernando Alonso, fantastic, Lance Stroll. Come on, seriously. The other driver lineups get points consistently and are there with each other on a regular basis.
I just wanted Fernando and Seb.
That would have been amazing.
That's all I wanted.
Seb, please come back. Come back. For God's sake.
I used to hate Seb at Red Bull.
Everyone hates Seb at Red Bull.
But then I've got a hatred for Red Bull. So I might have fueled from that. But then when he went to Ferrari, I just loved Seb. Loved him.
He's top class bloke, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Apart from when he sideswiped Hamilton in Baku. That was
even then though, they buried it, and they arguably made him better friends.
Yeah, probably.
So
I love that moment where Seb stuck up for Lewis in that press conference. When the interviewer was like, "Why did you say really bad things over the radio?" And Seb was like, "Oh, I'll put a mic to a football player's mouth." And
yeah,
I like that. That's good from Seb.
I think a bromance that started to come to very much fruition was Seb and Lewis.
Yeah. They were bromancing, weren't they?
They were you can't get it was just nice. It was just nice to see.
Yeah, it was
really nice to see. But yeah, that's Aston Martin. Just summed up, a bit dead. I don't like Aston Martin either at all.
Why?
I just don't like Aston Martin. I don't like Lawrence.
What's Lawrence done to you?
It's just his face. Just his face. I didn't like him at Williams. I think he's just such an arrogant arsehole. He just is.
Yes, Lawrence Stroll, if you listen to this.
He could piss off. Fuck him.
Boxing match.
Yeah,
right
get
now.
on Misfits.
Lawrence Stroll versus
now we can
Jack.
Fucking hashtag KSI.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Lawrence Stroll can piss off.
Ferrari.
No, it wasn't Ferrari. It was McLaren.
McLaren.
Although you could argue because McLaren, bloody
McLaren.
hell, McLaren.
What a comeback, by the way.
Since them upgrades came in Austria.
What a comeback.
You could argue they were the second best car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what a comeback. I mean, I think you look at the trajectory of Aston Martin and the trajectory of McLaren, it's like night and day, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing that annoys me about McLaren. Pisses me off. I'm really glad that they came back
Just why didn't they start like that?
But they don't start like that, and it's happened.
It's happened for a few seasons now.
And it's really annoying because I think if Red Bull won't get it wrong, but if they have a slow start one season,
Red Bull used to have a couple slow starts.
they did. If they have a slow start, and if McLaren get it right, McLaren are there. Lando Norris is there.
Oh,
Lando Norris.
Lando Norris. For me,
Yeah.
For me, if I put this year this lot drivers in equal machinery,
Yeah.
Lando by far is easily a title contender.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
I would go as far as the fact that there's only 3 drivers that would win it for me if they were all in equal machinery.
Who are they?
Lewis, Lando, Max.
I agree.
That's it. And
No.
I think it's in that order
No.
for me.
No, there's 5.
No, don't even.
That's
The only driver that's on the fringe for me of that would be Charles.
I agree.
Don't
Fernando
even.
Alonso.
No.
Fernando Alonso.
I don't know.
Come on!
No.
Fernando
No.
Alonso. It's Fernando Alonso.
I know it's Fernando Alonso. I don't think that he would win the title. I think he would have a good run.
Uh-huh.
I don't think he would win.
Right.
I don't think Charles would win. The only 3 that would win is Lewis, Lando.
The only reason I'd count out Charles is because he's a little bit accident heavy sometimes.
Charles causes his own downfall.
Yeah. He's very quick, but I think he'd win a lot of the races.
I love Charles though. I love him to bits.
But he'd either win or he'd crash.
Yeah.
That's the issue with Charles.
Awesome. Or Ferrari just let him down.
Yeah.
But
So
still at McLaren.
Sticking on McLaren though.
Lando Norris, what a year.
Speaking of improving from a year-to-year basis,
You
Lando
can't
Norris.
fault Lando Norris he's always improvement every
Yeah.
year, no
Which
matter
is
what
scary.
car he's given.
Because he's young, he's hungry. Where's he going to be next year? Where's he going to be the year after?
What car can they give him?
What car? If McLaren can start strong, they've got a driver pairing that can give
I
them
hope
a title.
Oscar carries on. I hope it's not a one-season wonder.
Yeah.
Oscar had the second best. He is the second best rookie in terms of points
Ever.
ever,
The only one beats him is Lewis Hamilton, isn't it?
and that was on the old point system. But Hamilton still beat him.
Yeah, but to be fair, that McLaren was like the best car for most of the season that year, or one of the best cars.
It was.
That Ferrari.
Yeah. But the fact that it's still on the old point system and he's still beating them all by like almost 20 points.
Yeah, no, it is mad. It is mad, but that car was consistently on the podium every single race.
Well,
So.
Hamilton was consistently on the podium every single race.
Yeah.
You got to give it
Most
to him in
races.
his rookie season.
No, it was incredible.
But anyway, yeah, Oscar, he had a great year as well. Oscar had a great year.
I was very impressed with Oscar.
I was
impressed.
a bit, start of the year, it was a bit like, is it the right decision? And then he just kept performing race after race after race after race.
Yeah, very impressed with Oscar.
Yeah. I don't think you could say much on McLaren other than that. They've had an impressive year.
Been a great year.
Other than maybe if they started out better, where could they have been?
They could have. This is the thing. What I'm saying is, if Red Bull have a slow start, Lando will be there. And if Oscar's there,
without a doubt, for me, I think Lando would be there.
and this might be also why. Speaking of the Perez incident as well, where Red Bull might be slightly worried, is that if Perez doesn't perform, and if McLaren are there, if Mercedes are there,
they've got
if
2
Ferrari
drivers that
are there,
will always perform.
they've got all those teams have 2 drivers that are
Will
always going to
consistently
perform.
get points,
Consistently will perform. Even on their weekdays, Hamilton is 6th, ends up 6th, 5th, 6th, doesn't he? You know what I mean?
Well,
on his bad races, still ends up in the mid points. You know, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, you can always guarantee to get points.
I think 2023 just highlights Hamilton's consistency massively.
Which we'll get onto.
It did, yeah.
But yeah, McLaren, incredible year for them, incredible comeback. I'm very impressed with McLaren. Arguably, my
it's my team of the season.
Yeah.
100%. But with what they had to do and where they've come from,
yeah, incredible.
Got to be my team.
With the fact that their lineup is very young as well. Like, yeah, Lando's experienced, but to show to show that experience and that consistency and that hunger from Lando is showing his class, and to show what a rookie Oscar is as well. Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Great season for McLaren. So Ferrari. Good year for Ferrari.
Overall, a good year.
What
I found was funny was they've gone from some races they were second, if not fighting Red Bull on a few.
Getting a pole here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting a win. Singapore. Las Vegas.
They were quick.
Very quick. Monza. Quick. Up there with Red Bull. To them being behind McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin on some races.
Yeah.
They've gone from being second / nearly first fastest.
Yeah.
On an occasional race to fifth. And that's what ruined Ferrari.
And this is, I think for most of the year, I think this is what is kind of ruined Ferrari, Aston Martin and McLaren's chances, is that
their race pace is too
inconsistent. Yeah, Red Bull and Mercedes, as we'll get onto, are the only two consistent teams throughout the year. I think mostly, obviously you have the odd race here and there, but I think mostly...
Overall.
Mercedes were always the third fastest car, which doesn't sound great, but in an overall 23 race Constructors' Championship...
That's what you need.
That's all you need. Red Bull obviously consistently first.
Oh.
But Ferrari, either second, very quick, even winning a race in Singapore, or...
Which...
Or, you know...
Wait. I don't think they had the pace.
Or
Singapore overall.
No, I think Mercedes were probably the quickest car, or McLaren.
I think Ferrari were the quickest car, and then Mercedes did that strategy, didn't they, in Singapore, and it just brought them straight back in the game.
Incredible strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ferrari, I think good progress. I think I'm impressed with Ferrari this year because I didn't expect much of them.
Well, you say you don't expect much of them. Last year they were battling Red Bull.
Yeah, but you've got to look at where they were.
They
sacked their team principal.
They did.
They sacked Mattia Binotto, got Fred Vasseur. Fred Vasseur came in. You don't expect him to do well in his first year. They're trying to build something, aren't they? Obviously, you know, we know their strategy's awful. They've sacked their strategy.
They've got better this year, to be fair, in terms of pit stops and strategy.
I was impressed.
They're still shaky at times.
Yeah, I was impressed because I wasn't expecting much from the boys in red this year. But last year, I should say.
I was still expecting Ferrari to easily be top 3.
Yeah, I was expecting them to be top 3, but I wasn't expecting them to be.
After 2022, though, they had the Charles and Max battle. Ferrari did have a baseline car there to perform.
They did, but I think when you get rid of your team principal,
it's a difficult one because I feel like they had a shake-up in team, but they also had a car there that they could have worked around.
Yeah, and they
should have arguably been better.
Maybe that's why it's kind of balanced out a bit.
Maybe,
but it's I wasn't really expecting much from Ferrari. I'm expecting more from them this year than last year because I think now they have the platform to make strides forward.
Do you know what was interesting for me this year as well?
What?
Carlos Sainz over the first load, you would argue he was a little bit ahead of Charles.
Yeah, you know what's really confusing to me? I think this has been Charles Leclerc's poorest season.
One of his worst.
And everyone goes, and every single top driver...
He did pick it up, though, quite a bit towards the last quarter of the season.
But I think this is an issue I have with all F1 fans, so if you're watching, I have an issue with you. F1 fans thrive off recency bias.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we know we do. Yeah. But one issue I have is every single driver rankings that I saw at the end of the season after Abu Dhabi, everyone had Charles Leclerc in like their top 3 or 5. I wouldn't agree.
As a whole season...
No.
As a whole season, I think he's top 7.
Yeah, he picked it up and he finished ahead of Carlos in the points, but only because he then started consistently getting those points.
His Vegas performance was phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing race. But for remember at the start of the season, I remember everyone was questioning whether Charles was the right man to win a championship for Ferrari. Because Carlos was outperforming him. All the way up until maybe even the midpoint of the season.
I think that's a downfall of both of them drivers, though.
Why is that?
Both of them have a mistake in them.
Yeah.
Both
Especially Charles.
I think both of them do. I think Charles's mistake... I think Carlos had just as many as Charles did in 2022. It's just Charles was highlighted more because he was up there with Max.
He was in front, yeah.
That's what's highlighted Charles more. But I think Carlos is equally the same.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Yeah.
I think as in terms of whole, drivers and team are both prone to mistakes.
If they can fix that, they can be there. If they get a good car, like they did in 2022...
The team just don't need to fuck it up.
Charles needs to not crash.
Both drivers. Can't just single out Charles. I think Carlos is the same.
I still think that Max would have won 2022, but...
Oh, God, yeah.
If Charles didn't crash when he did, and let's just say every time a win was presented Charles's way, and he took it, and he was consistently there, I think it would have gone a lot further. A lot further.
The other thing was the inconsistency, the unreliability of Ferrari as well.
Yeah, the strategy was awful.
Even the engines, they kept blowing up on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ferrari, good year. I think this is a basis now for them to leapfrog.
Their reliability weren't that bad this year either.
No, it was alright.
So they've made strides. I think everyone's reliability this year.
This year I think was probably one of the most reliable years we've had in the sport.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing now. We're getting to the point where reliability is becoming less and less of an issue. I guess it kind of takes a little bit of excitement from it, but engineering is,
a little bit, yeah. But
engineering's getting to a new level in it of consistency. Safety is becoming obviously more prominent in the sport now. So
yeah.
We're getting less crashes and failures, which some would say is less exciting, but possibly means the drivers will finish, I guess. Mercedes. I think overall decent year for Mercedes, given how poor they were the season before.
Oh, God, they were awful the season before.
And I think them switching philosophies around took a toll on them.
It's going to be interesting, 2024, Carl.
Yeah, it's took a toll on them, but I think they're in a position now, hopefully. They've started a bit late, haven't they? To try and push for Red Bull. I think Red Bull made the right decision with their philosophy. Mercedes obviously didn't. But I think now that they've got it tied down and they know where they're going, hopefully it can mean
a bit of a challenger next year.
I was saying this. If I'm confident about one team to push Red Bull next year, it's Mercedes.
I'm not confident.
Who would you say then? If it's not Mercedes,
if I've got to choose a team,
the team most likely to challenge Red Bull this year. I keep getting mixed up with the years. It's only January the 11th.
Yeah, well, no, but we're still talking about F1 2023. It's all confusing.
Yeah.
If I've got to choose a team
that challenges Red Bull next year, yeah, who does it?
Ferrari.
You reckon? I'd say Mercedes.
I would say Ferrari, only because Mercedes have completely changed their car for this year.
Yeah.
And that's either going to be amazing and they're going to be up there with Red Bull, or they're going to face the same issues that they had.
I'd agree.
Where they don't understand the car.
I'd agree, but I think Ferrari, there's too much uncertainty in their consistency.
I think we're going to have another similar year, though, of Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull just that slightly ahead.
I agree.
Again.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you're watching this now, thank you for getting an hour and 10 minutes in.
Are we an hour and 10 minutes in?
We're an hour and 10 minutes in. We haven't even got to the questions yet.
Oh God!
But if you are
longest podcast,
then obviously in a few weeks we'll be doing our 2024 predictions. So make sure you tune in for that. That will be our full driver and constructors predictions on the podcast.
Things change weekly.
They do. We'll probably say something different, but obviously then there might have been more news out, more developments with the cars, possibly. Yeah.
Possibly.
So
maybe a reveal.
our opinions might change based on obviously news that comes out, and we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come. But we're going to be doing our predictions then based before testing, and then we'll probably do some predictions after testing as well.
Oh god, yeah.
So either way, let's move. So yeah, no, okay.
Let's wrap up the drivers of Mercedes and Red Bull quick, because Red Bull's going to be a quick one.
Red Bull's a quick. We've already spoke a lot about Red Bull anyway with AlphaTauri and.
But I think
stuff.
Mercedes drivers this year.
I'm happy with them.
I'm happy with them. I think you've seen Lewis Hamilton's relentless consistency.
Yeah.
In dragging that car. I think I'm not a fan of George.
No.
Personally. I think
I am though.
He just needs to learn his place.
I rate George Russell
he needs
really
to learn
highly.
He needs to learn his place.
No.
I don't think. I think George. Maybe it's. I just view him as he tries too hard.
Possibly, but I rate him though. I think if you're gonna give that number one seat to someone past Hamilton, it's George Russell. I think he's proven.
No.
Yes.
If I'm Mercedes,
don't listen to him.
And Lewis Hamilton leaves. If I'm Mercedes, I would have got rid of George. And Lewis Hamilton retires. Say, I either bring the driver I bring in is Lando Norris.
Yeah, everyone's after Lando Norris though.
The driver I bring in to lead Mercedes would be Lando Norris.
What, and then do you keep George Russell about, or do you get someone else?
Oh no, fuck him. Just fuck George.
Nah, man.
Nah,
he's great.
I'm not a fan.
No, okay. I really rate George Russell. I really rate George Russell. I do. I think he's had a poor season. But I rate George Russell. The expectations are there.
The things that turn me against George is F1 fans.
What? Because everyone likes him.
What? Everyone's he's this good, blah blah blah. He's the best the Mercedes have. He's better than Lewis. But
he's not better than Lewis. He's not better than Lewis. No, by no stretch of the imagination. No, you can't.
He's nowhere near.
Lewis Hamilton's a 7-time world champion and has proved the last 2 years why he's relentlessly consistent and considered one of the best drivers on the grid.
So much hate.
I don't understand it. Yeah. By the way, there's nothing talking about Lewis Hamilton. I don't think we really need to touch on it because we've spoke about it. But like, he is consistent. He's consistent.
Oh, God.
So consistent. Even on his poor days, even in the worst race he's had in the last, I'd say 10 years, right, where he's finished, probably is. Did he finish Germany 2019? Because I guess that'd count. But
he got points.
Besides Germany 2019, Saudi Arabia.
Even then, Germany 2019, he obviously made a mistake. His pit crew kept him in there for a minute, and he still made it into the points.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia,
2022.
2022. Obviously, the car's not working for him. He's testing all different setups to try and get the car to hook up.
That's all he was doing for that half a year, though, testing.
He could not get the car together for the life of him. Still finished 10th, and he qualified out of the first. And this is the thing. This is the thing.
His qualifying's been a bit.
I believe if that's anyone else, they don't get anywhere near the points. Maybe Max. No one else.
Lewis's qualifying's been a bit ropes though.
That's something he needs to work on, but I think
he's even come out and admitted that though this year.
But I think his race pace does make up for it.
Lewis's race pace has been phenomenal. Like he's qualified 14th, 13th, 12th, multiple occasions. He's been out on Q2.
Yeah.
Never a doubt in my mind when it comes to race pace that he wouldn't easily be top 8.
No, there's never been a doubt that he won't score points.
There's never been a doubt. No. And that's why I think Mercedes are so calm when they see him go out.
They're like, it's okay, Lewis, don't worry.
Yeah, they're like...
P14, don't worry about it.
P14.
Okay.
What was it? Zandvoort. Was that P14? He qualified
13.
13.
Was it 13?
Yeah. He shot his way through. He went down to last after that crazy strategy.
Crazy race, by the way.
It was a crazy race.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Mad race. He was on pace of Max.
He was the fastest car on the field at one point.
Yeah.
Incredible driver.
Texas as well. Mercedes didn't fuck that strategy, and he didn't get disqualified. He could have won that race.
Oh yeah, easily. They fucked the strategy.
Lewis looked like he could have won like a couple races this year if Mercedes didn't fuck him over a few times.
Yeah.
George did not at all.
No.
George looked ropey for a podium. He only got 2.
But I think George understood. He was very self-aware that it was a poor season. He came out multiple occasions saying it was a poor season for him. Lewis is beating him in the points. He needs to be better. And I understand.
Yeah, but I think it was a poor season for Lewis. Like, not a poor season in terms. I don't think Lewis is happy with this season either.
No, Lewis, well, the thing is, Lewis is the type.
Lewis is never happy.
Lewis is never happy. Even with that Singapore lap.
Oh my god.
He said he could find more.
That Singapore.
He said it's the perfect. He said it was the most perfect lap he has ever done, but there is always more time to find. That's a racing driver.
Yeah.
I know he said that at some point. Might not have been Singapore, but you know what I mean. He has said that before, and that's a racing driver right there. But either way, Red Bull. We spoke about Red Bull a lot, haven't we?
Oh, we can just say that they were just
Perez, obviously
miles ahead. Perez didn't perform, and Max was just gone.
Perez, there needs to be an intervention with Perez, I think. But the issue, okay, one thing I do want to touch on with Perez is that obviously at the start of the year, I think obviously the car is more at the baseline, so Perez can keep up. But as the season goes on, they develop it more in tune to Max's driving style. I saw Alex
Albon come out on a podcast and say that it's not really biased towards Max. I swear he said that he's not massively, like, not the way that people perceive it.
No, what he said was it's not. They're not purposefully designing it around Max, but they purposefully the way their philosophy is, the way that Adrian Newey builds that car is that it's very just coincidentally in tune with Max, which is why he's so good in it. Which means
coincidentally.
Well, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. We don't know. Obviously, they probably are building it around Max. I mean, he's the best driver, but.
Yeah, wouldn't not choose.
No, you wouldn't. But like the way that Alex Albon described it was that you're basically getting slower throughout the year in comparison to your teammate because
he's got the car that's coming to
the baseline is kind of level playing field. Max is still going to beat you, but it's not crazy. It's like 2 or 3 tenths.
And it just gets worse.
As the season goes on, it gets worse because the car is being developed to have I forget what Max's driving style is. Is it more slippy front end? Or ropey front end or something like that. Like he likes the car a certain way.
He likes a bit of a looser front end.
He likes it very twitchy. The way Albon described it was that it's like when you play a computer game and the mouse is on the full sensitivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Max loves it like that. And you have to be a great driver to be able to handle a car like that. Max can, but obviously other drivers can't and struggle with it.
Well, it's like Lewis's driving style, as you've seen. Mercedes' cockpit was further forward, and Lewis hated that.
Yeah.
And Mercedes, they pushed the cockpit back this year for Lewis. That was Lewis's request for this year.
Uh-huh.
So Lewis is now getting more comfortable in that car because his seating position is the way that he wants it.
Well, that's just how certain drivers have certain ways of driving. But
you just see Max likes the twitch front end, Lewis likes his seat further back. You got drivers like a certain way.
But it's like...
But you've got to adapt towards your teammate on some occasions.
See, that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's like, do you give Perez the benefit of the doubt? Because we've been talking this entire podcast about...
you give it a benefit of the doubt, but there's a level to it, and he was just too far off.
Yeah.
Too far.
You've got to find that perfect balance.
There's a point where you can be so far off, and Max is here, you can be about here on a drop. Perez was down here.
That's where they want him to be. They want him to be top 5 every race.
Oh,
preferably.
God, yeah. You expect a Q3 in the car that he was bloody given every race.
Yeah.
Barring reliability.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the season in review of the drivers and the teams.
Now, was Max's this year...
We don't even need to talk about Max.
I know, but is that the best season a driver has had?
One of. Yes. Recency bias tells me yes. I want to say yes because that is to win.
Hang on. I just want to say this. I'm just gonna do what Max fan says.
What?
It's the car. It's just the car. The car that gives them performance. That's what they say about Lewis, anyway.
Yeah,
it's the car that does
true.
it. It's not the driver. It's the car.
You know, if you're an F1 fan, you know, if you're a Max fan or you're a Lewis fan, whatever it is, you can't.
Max fans are so deluded.
You can't. Both of them say it's the car to each other.
They do.
It's so annoying. It's not the. It's a bit of both. Yeah, it's the car.
You have to.
But
be
it's the
given
driver
a car.
as well.
You have to be given a car to win.
You put Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes. Sorry.
In the Mercedes. Well, he's in the Mercedes.
Yes, in a Mercedes. You put Lewis Hamilton in a Williams.
Car.
You put Lewis Hamilton in a Williams. He's not going to go anywhere near a podium. Maybe once on an odd occasion on a crazy race.
Oh, he will. I think Max would as well.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's a poor analogy. You put him in a Haas. No chance.
I don't think there's no chance. I think they get more than 12 points.
Yeah, because they're great drivers. But you put them in a Red Bull or a 2020 Mercedes, or a 2004 Ferrari.
2014 Mercedes.
It's bliss. It's done and dusted before the titles even started. You know what I mean? So you can't say it's the car.
I just did.
It's not though.
No, it's not.
It's a bit of both.
It's not. I mean, I think the car this year, I think the car this year for Red Bull was fucked.
Oh, it's mental.
Ridiculous car.
Is that the best F1 car we've ever seen? No, I guess it goes hand in hand then, doesn't it?
Again.
Is that the best performance from a driver with car that we've ever seen? Because I guess you could say this season was Max and the Red Bull.
Max
that
only
20
won 'cause of that car.
Exactly. That 2019-20
You just
period.
said exactly, you see?
Well, no, without the car, Max doesn't win, obviously. That 2019-20 period with Hamilton and Mercedes was also the Mercedes.
Yeah.
That 2004 season for Michael Schumacher with the Ferrari was also the Ferrari. Because we saw the following season, Michael Schumacher, yes, scored a lot of points for Ferrari, but the car wasn't there. And Kimi came through and won a lot of races, and then Alonso ended up winning.
I think one of the things you got to also point out is the drivers have an input in the car.
Yeah.
And the way that it might be down to the car, but it's the driver that has also built the car.
Helped build the car, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to give Max credit. And we were just talking about how the way the Red Bull's set up is obviously very coincidentally in tune with Max's driving style. That can't be a coincidence.
No, it's nowhere near.
Max is going to have had some input in that.
Yeah.
Of course he is. So yeah, I think Max has done a brilliant job this year. His best season in F1 so far. And I don't think he's going to slow down.
Don't like him though.
Anyway.
So yeah.
So we've got a few more questions. I think we'll go quick fire, I think, on these because we're getting quite...
It's getting quite long.
Time's wrapping on.
It's getting quite long.
It's getting long, but it's been a good podcast.
First podcast.
First podcast. I'm proud of us. We've done well. Tap on the back.
I don't even know if anyone's going to watch it this long. If you've made it this long, well done.
Well done, and thank you.
You've done well. I'm surprised I've made it this long, to be honest.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just tired.
Woke up in the morning, tired.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, not this afternoon.
So personal highlight of the season?
McLaren's resurgence.
Singapore. The race, just the race in general.
That's because Red Bull weren't there.
Exactly.
It was just something different.
Oh shit! Okay, well I've just kind of fucked myself over for this. Favorite race of the season?
You've just said Singapore.
Okay, if I'm not going to say Singapore, then Netherlands because that was quite a fun race. So it was chaotic.
I think Netherlands was fun to watch. Yeah.
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Vegas, aren't you?
I really enjoyed.
You really liked Vegas.
I hated everything up until the race, but the race was phenomenal. You can't deny how good that race was.
The race was good.
The race was so good. I think you had the problem of Fernando, Lewis, and Sainz were all together.
Yeah.
They all had to come through.
Yeah.
It was great overtaking. You had Charles battling Max. Max didn't run away.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Most surprising performance?
Surprising, is it in terms of good or bad?
Good.
Oscar.
Oscar.
Oscar surprised me a lot in terms of how well he kept up with Lando throughout the whole year.
I'll agree. I'm going to say Oscar. Because I was going to say originally Alex Albon, but I don't think... I think I would expect Albon to... If you're going to compare them on their expectations, you expect Albon to do what he did last season more than what Oscar did.
Yes.
So I'll agree with that. I'll say Oscar.
Well, Oscar won a sprint.
He did?
He won a sprint.
He bloody did. The only other driver than Sainz to win something that wasn't Red Bull.
Or Perez, yeah.
Biggest flop.
Lance Stroll.
George Russell. Controversial, I know, because I said George Russell was good. Lance Stroll, this is down to expectations again. Lance Stroll, I think...
You can't deny how much of a flop he was with the car that he's given.
But But the last few seasons, Stroll has been dreadful. And I think they should have got rid of him years ago. Like you were saying,
yeah,
it should have been
the last few seasons, they didn't have a car like this.
But I think going into the season, I think everyone knew that Stroll was going to be their weak point.
You did, but you didn't realise how much of a weak point until you watched the season.
True.
Lance Stroll, considering the car that he had, the ability that he supposedly has, he just flopped it.
I'm saying George Russell because I rate George Russell really highly, but I think he understood he had a bad season.
No, I don't.
He should have, like, it's for me, George Russell, it's the moments this season where he should have scored more points and didn't. Like Singapore, obviously he can't win that race, but at least finish third. You know what I mean? At least finish third.
And he crashed. Yeah.
And he crashed. And it's like stuff like that. It's like he could have had such a good season and he didn't. And he's proven that he can keep up with Lewis. He can, and he can out qualify him because, as we said, Lewis is qualifying this year hasn't been great. But I think he proved he could keep up with one of the best.
I don't think he can keep up in race pace. I think Lewis's race pace this year was on a different level.
Not over the season, but
over the season's race pace, Lewis's race pace was different.
But I think George has proven he can be there, and he wasn't. And I think when Mercedes, I think it would have been worse. I think people underestimate how bad of a season George has had only because Mercedes ended up finishing in front of Ferrari. If Mercedes ended up losing to Ferrari this season, I think people would have come down on George Russell more. And I think because they almost did, I think
George also saved it with that Abu Dhabi performance.
Oh yeah,
again, recency bias.
Exactly, recency bias. But overall, the season wasn't great for him. So I think George Russell's my biggest flop of the season.
Yeah, I ain't budging off Lance Stroll.
I mean, I can get behind Lance Stroll, but I expected him to be dog, so I don't.
So bad.
He is bad.
I think Perez earns a shout in there. Biggest flop as well.
Perez does earn a shout, yeah. But he still finished second, so I can't fault him. We've done that one. Are track limits ruining F1? This is another track, because it was a controversial topic at least half the races this season, track limits.
Mainly, well, especially Austria.
Yeah.
Austria, that was just a mind fuck.
I understand why they have track limits.
What was really annoying though with track limits as well, like track limits is there, it's supposed to be pretty precise, easy, everyone knows what's going on. So tell me why an hour or two after the race we then got an updated race result.
Yeah. Because
of track limits.
It's
why is it that complicated?
It's like VAR. You're trying to overcomplicate something. Like, in football, right? Referee makes a bad decision. Mistakes are always going to be made.
Yeah.
But it's when they start doing that VAR thing where, you know, when the ball goes over the line and they're like, oh, it's a subjective VAR decision. It's like, that's not what VAR came in for. It's still a ref making a decision at that point.
Well, I think it's got to be, if you pick up on it, it's seen straight away. If they pick up on it, it's done.
Yeah.
If you miss it, you can't then go back over the race and see.
Yeah. That's what I mean, yeah. It's got to be there and then.
Although, Although I must admit, the amount of times that it came up that Perez left that track in Texas, Jesus Christ! How the hell did he get away with all of that?
I know they don't have the technology yet for it, but one of the things that really annoyed me was that it wasn't consistent. Like it was
there was no consistency in track
because
limits.
they had it in some corners, but not all corners.
It was like Qatar as well.
Yeah,
them track limits were, but then Qatar was a bit of a weird race with the tyres and everything. So I think Qatar was a bit of an anomaly.
You can excuse it slightly in Qatar.
Yeah,
but in
Austria was stupid. Absolutely stupid.
I'd argue Austria was probably the best race for track limits because it was the only race where they were penalised every single corner they went off.
Yeah, but it was just stupid.
It was stupid, but it makes sense. Right, you either go all in on it and do it on every corner.
I think they went over the top in Austria.
Yeah, but that's my problem. You either... It's only on a few corners, right? Each track. Which means people can gain time going wide at other corners and not get penalised for it because it isn't detected. So you either do it at every corner and then it becomes the issue of is it over the top, like you're saying, or do you just not do it at all? But if you go in the middle, which is what they've been doing all season, then it just makes it wishy-washy and you get decisions made after the race because they go back and watch it and then decide someone needs to be penalised. It's like, just go one way or the other. Like,
it's got to be decided there and then.
It has to be decided there and then, and you've got to do it. You've got to do it in the race, and it's got to be...
So then that's only fair on driver.
Yeah.
And on team.
Yeah. As well. And the fans as well.
Yeah, and the fans.
Because the fans are there to watch the sport. They might be busy the rest of the day, and the results change. And maybe they're not that big into F1, so they tune in the next week, and the driver standings are different, and they're like, why is that?
Yeah,
what's
going on?
So, do the sprints work? Have we had a good few sprint races?
This year, no.
So it was weaker, wasn't it, this year?
It was weak this year, I feel. I think previous years we've had good sprints. I mean, I think one driver can make a sprint.
You thinking about Hamilton?
I'm thinking of that. I think that sprint just lives in everyone's mind.
Yeah, 20th to 5th.
But I think we've had a couple of sprints that have been similar to that. I think a couple of good. I think Britain, the one that we had in Britain was really good. But I think this year they've all been pretty poor.
They've been poor. I think one thing with sprints is this year we've noticed they're a spoiler for the race, especially when you have when there's like.
I don't like quali as well on the Friday.
No, when you have a driver like Max that is so dominant, when there's a chance maybe that another team might be challenging him, you're like, oh, this race is going to be good, and then the sprint happens and Max wins by like 10 seconds. You're like, well, that's the
end.
That's the race done, isn't it?
Race, yeah.
You know what's going to happen in the race. So it's like a
spoiler.
spoiler.
Although it was slightly different at Texas because we had the sprint at Texas and Max dominated that after qualifying in like 6th. He came through and dominated that, and then the race, Lewis and Lando kept with him.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a little difference there, but I think maybe you need to have a bit of like your sprint needs to be one way, and then you can make changes so you're not strict in parc ferme after a sprint. So maybe you have your sprint quali on the Friday night instead of the race quali.
Yeah.
Have your sprint race Saturday morning, and then you can make your changes ready for qualifying and the race, and you go into parc ferme when you hit race quali on that Saturday afternoon.
That'd be interesting because everyone would max their cars out for the sprint, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So then you go into parc ferme.
I think you sack off sprint qualifying, and you make
championship standing
reverse for the sprint, and then just do qualifying in the race as normal. If you want to keep the qualifying in the race bit normal, because obviously the FIA and some of the top teams are against
all normal.
They're against doing it.
The only thing
affect it, aren't they?
That could have a problem with is the amount of crashes there could be.
I think that's why they haven't done it.
It could become more dangerous in terms of you're going to have all these faster cars picking through all these slower cars, these drivers, that it could, and end up in a bit of a mess.
But the thing is, though, you say that, but what's the point of F1?
Yeah, I agree.
There's a line there.
They are supposedly the 20 best drivers
in the world.
They should be able to race like that.
And also, it's the peak. 20 best drivers in the world. It's the peak of motorsport. People, even in recent times, people have died driving cars like this.
Yeah.
They know the dangers, right?
Yeah.
It is a dangerous sport, as it is. Whether you drive backwards or forwards, reverse or top to bottom, championship order, it's dangerous either way.
Yeah. And
people, so when people, I think the sport is fucked when they start considering overtaking a danger to the sport. That's when it's fucked.
Do they have? I feel like there isn't enough points on offer in sprint for the big teams to care if you do it in reverse order.
Yeah, but if you put too many points on the board, because the teams can vote on the ideas, can't they? If you put too many points on the board,
maybe it needs to be like a separate championship that goes towards the development of the following year.
Oh, a sprint championship.
So you have a sprint championship, and the further up you finish, how the further down you finish in the championship, the more wind tunnel time you get.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be something similar to that, but in terms of the sprint, so the further up you finish, something you're getting for development for the next year.
You get
So that gives the likes of Max, who would be starting last almost every sprint, the incentive for the team to get to first, because he wants to finish higher up.
Because then they'll have more development time for the next year.
Potentially, yes.
That's a good idea. You should go work for the fucking FIA. Go on, put your fucking CV into the.
Yeah, no. I'm not working for them. School.
Oh, take Michael Massey's job.
Oh, he's such a tosser.
Michael Massey, Bellend. Nothing against him as a person, but
no, everything against
as a steward. No, I can't do that. Yeah. I think we've got one more thing.
One more.
We've got one more question.
Is that it? You'll be glad to hear.
Yep. Is the calendar too long?
Yes.
Yes. And so I think, personally, just metally, just talking about the podcast a second, I think we've come in a great time, right? Because we're doing this podcast now. I think F1's gaining popularity.
It's more live streams.
But no, this is what I mean. I think we've come in at a great time because F1's getting popular, right?
We are, yeah.
And I think people are going to want to hear other people talk about it. And I think it's becoming a bit like football in that sense.
Well, I think that's what's good. That's why we need people to tune into our live streams.
Yeah, and you guys could get talking in the chat, obviously, when we do the streams.
Get into our live stream chats, and we can have conversations and have more opinions.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want.
And that's what we want to build a community. So I think
opinions.
We've done great at our timing, but what sucks about it... Maybe it doesn't. Maybe this isn't a bad thing, but I think it might be a bad thing.
What
is that? The more races they add, the more desaturated, or the more saturated, should I say, content is going to become.
I think they could keep this amount of races. I think they have to go through the calendar and overall look at tracks and track layouts and whether it's worth keeping that or bringing in a different one. Like, why is Portimao still not on? Every race at Portimao was a good race.
Yeah.
Why is
Turkey
not back on?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to look. These tracks worked. They were good races. What happened to Germany? Where's that gone?
Here's a controversial one for you. Would you swap out any of those tracks for Monaco?
Monaco as a race is boring. But I can see why you keep it for the spectacle, the money, and the qualifying is on the edge.
Yeah.
So,
as a race, it's butters.
As a race, it's so boring.
Can we just have a qualifying, right? And then
quali in Monaco, race in Turkey.
Race in Turkey, yeah. There you go. That'll do.
No, I won't swap out for Monaco. but like there are a few tracks that are a bit.
Yeah, like I'd swap out France
For a Turkey maybe,
for a Turkey
or
or
a Portugal.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
or a what's it called?
Even Spain's getting a bit boring for me now.
Yeah.
The only thing that I reckon the teams really like Spain is because it was a good track for all different types of circuits. You got your high speed, you got your slow speed corners, you got
good testing.
It's a good testing track.
It's good for MotoGP as well.
Yeah.
And F2 goes there. I think F3 goes there as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like.
I think a couple are getting a bit.
Yeah, they're getting a bit ropey, aren't they? The thing is, these new cars.
I think Baku has slowly been getting worse year in, year out. Getting worse and worse every year.
I love street circuits, but
I do. I think Singapore still works. I like the changes that they made.
Well, that's because every single time we go to Singapore, this always happens. The best car that season always, for some reason, doesn't work in Singapore.
Yeah,
whether it's Mercedes, because Mercedes never did well there in their dominance reign. But they won a few times. But
I mean,
yeah,
you had a.
That's Lewis Hamilton. That's Lewis Hamilton, not the car. Lewis
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
You can't say that was the fucking car.
No, it wasn't. That car was nowhere. That Mercedes, honestly, a lot of the time was nowhere. It was either Seb or it was a bit of Red Bull in there.
Yeah.
And then this year, for some reason, Red Bull nowhere and Carlos just out of nowhere. And McLaren, Lando. So yeah, Singapore works, I guess. As long as the fast teams stop winning there.
Yeah, I think Brazil this year was a bit dead.
Now Brazil's always a great track though.
Brazil's a great track, but it was dead this year, and I was quite sad.
I didn't think it was a bad race. I like Brazil.
I didn't enjoy it.
I think Brazil's always a great race. Usually.
For me, it wasn't as good as what it has been.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Brazil's made itself to be a top tier race, and I feel like it just fell below this year.
When it has an average one, it's like, oh, it's poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue now with Brazil. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, shorter calendar, but replace some of the tracks. If you are going to have a longer calendar.
Again, I'm happy with this amount. The only thing I feel like they're on about, aren't they, like, adding in Africa, which I think they need to.
Yes.
They need an African
There's no
race.
tracks in Africa.
No.
It's the only continent, apart from Antarctica.
I think we need to, but I don't think it needs to be a 25 race season. I think you got to put it in for another track.
You got to put it in for a European one, don't you?
I think so.
Probably.
Your European one that you would choose is France at the moment.
It's annoying because what's that other track in France called? The last race was 2008.
Yeah, no, I'm gone.
That wasn't too bad. I thought it was a decent track. That.
I can't.
It's gonna come to me. No, I don't know, but either that one. It's sad because obviously France is a massive part of Formula One. Always has been. Drivers and the country itself. Obviously,
Yes.
Monaco's in France as well.
There you go. We got Monaco. Screw it.
So it's like there's
Monaco's
the
its
French.
own country, though.
It is, yeah, but it's like
we don't want any
French locals.
Yeah, but we don't want Monegasques coming at us.
No, sorry, Monegasques.
There's
not enough of
you're your own people.
Yes.
There you go.
There's not the French are a massive part of Formula One.
They are.
And it's kind of like how everyone's campaigning.
Renault Alpine, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of how like people are campaigning to get Germany back on the calendar because Germany's a massive part of Formula One. Obviously, Michael Schumacher, Mercedes-Benz, Vettel. Germany's a massive part of Formula One's history.
Hockenheim's a good track.
Yeah, and the Nürburgring as well.
Nürburgring,
and so it'd be sad to see France go because France is a massive part of Formula One, but the track is horrendous.
It's not performing.
It's horrendous. It's so bad. They need to, and I'd rather see Turkey or Portugal there in its place.
Yeah, I would much rather that. I mean, I think it's getting to a point where if Azerbaijan continued the way it was, I wouldn't mind Azerbaijan going.
Yeah. I can't say I disagree. I know I like Azerbaijan though. I think it can produce a good race.
Do you know where it does produce a good race?
Where?
However, at times where it doesn't, I'm on the edge, and I think it's here for a historic factor.
What?
Is Imola?
That's a good race.
It's a good race. I don't know. For me, it doesn't hit a spot.
Why?
I don't know. I go to I watch Imola, and I don't know. There's a massive lull period for me.
I don't know. I think it's Imola's an interesting one. I think I think it's one of the more interesting races on the calendar.
It's got a potential. Well, we didn't get there this year because of the
No,
floods.
we didn't. No.
I feel like it always rains in Imola though.
Yeah, it does. It's that type of time of year, isn't
And
it?
that's another thing. I think wet races have been pretty poor recently in terms of
That's the FIA's
when it's
fault, though.
so wet, we don't race, and then it's not wet enough.
Yeah.
Or if it's when we do race and it's wet, we don't see any overtakes and it's boring.
To be fair though, speaking of Monaco, we almost had a wet race in Monaco this year, midway through, didn't we?
Yeah, that made it slightly more interesting.
Which made it quite interesting this year, but never happened. But it kept you on the edge of the seat.
I wouldn't mind getting rid of Australia.
Yeah, you don't like Australia.
I don't like Australia, and I don't like waking up that early.
You just don't want to wake Bro, it's one of the first races on the podcast.
The only races... Well, I don't mind waking up for Suzuka because that's actually quite a good track.
I love
Suzuka.
the Japanese Grand Prix.
I love Suzuka, yeah. But, yeah.
You can't get rid of Australia, though, because it's the only race in Oceania.
I know.
So you can't get rid of Australia.
I know.
If you do, you have to replace it with another Australian circuit, or a New Zealand race. Because you've got to have a race in Australia.
Mind. I feel like Melbourne's just a bit...
It was a good race. It was.
I think the cars are too big for
Melbourne.
Yeah,
that's another problem. It's like Monaco. The cars are too big for Melbourne now, I think. Overtaking's really difficult.
Well, they're supposed to be a bit smaller, aren't they, for 2026?
Yeah. Yeah, supposed to be. We'll see how that turns out.
Mm.
But it's an interesting one because I think it's a problem with a lot of the circuits now. But the thing is, you can't get rid of Monaco. You can't get rid of Melbourne. They're too iconic. So they add more.
Yeah.
And this is the issue. The cars are too big for those tracks.
They are.
And the thing is, I'm a hypocrite because I wouldn't get rid of them either. Because you can't get rid of Australia and you can't get rid of Monaco. So
I know. I'd get rid of Australia.
I know you would. But this brings us back to the Africa problem. There's no African Grand Prix at the moment.
Yeah.
In any African country. And that'd be the same issue with Oceania as well. There's no Oceanian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I could deal with that though. My uncle lives in Australia.
He does. Uncle Jack?
No, Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil.
Here's a mention for you, Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil.
If you make it about an hour and 45 in.
Which I doubt you will. But if you do, hi Uncle Phil. Get us tickets to Melbourne, please. Yeah, no.
He didn't live anywhere near Melbourne.
Does he not?
No.
Right. Does he live on the other side of Australia?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't actually know where he lives, to be honest.
Right, well, that shows how much of a good nephew your nephew is, Uncle Phil. Yeah, well, I think that pretty much wraps us up for the first podcast.
Yeah, I think that's it, to be honest. It's been long.
It's been long. It's been good, though. I think it's gone quite quickly.
It has been. If anyone bloody makes it this long, fair play.
Fair fucking play.
Fair play to them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you anything because I'm broke. So, watch this.
But you can give us a super chat when you can.
Yeah. Get onto the live streams. Give us your opinions. That's what we want.
That's what you want. So if you made it this far, go in the comment section down below. I want to hear all your opinions on everything that we've talked about today. It'd be interesting. I'll be replying to them. Jack will reply to them.
We'll touch on them in other podcasts as well, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
If you've got good opinions, which you don't. Unless it's you don't like George Russell or Max Verstappen, then I'll listen to them.
Then this man's your man. Yeah, no, thank you for watching. Kimmy says bye. I've got to show.
No.
We paid 30 quid for this.
Kimmy doesn't say bye. Kimmy says nothing.
What? I'm showing Kimmy off because we paid 30 quid for this, but as you can see,
yeah, we need our money back.
He's too big for the setup, so we have to get him in here somehow. We were thinking about putting him behind the chair, but then he marked the wall. So.
I reckon we just cut his head.
Yeah, what do we do with Kimmy? Oh God.
We'll cut his head and we'll just stick him
on the wall.
Yeah.
watching. It's been a pleasure as always, and as always, this is the first one. What am I on about?
First one of many.
First one of many for this year.
Again, podcast will be
Next podcast is out
next Sunday.
next Sunday. Yeah, tune in.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.